So when I work with actors and I work with corporations, or I work with people with, when we dive deep into the human experience and human emotion, we talk about these this emotional scale here. This emotional scale is basically the platform in which we analyze emotion. So we can see it's very nuanced. Each one has its own vibration. So these are the vibrations of the emotional scale. Anger, which is kind of an umbrella emotion. It's kind of like the cover up of a lot of other different emotions, like feeling of betrayal, feeling of discomfort, feeling of being wronged, feeling of being misunderstood, feeling of being taken from. So anger is a scarcity emotion. And it is very uninteresting. It is one of the most uninteresting things to play as an actor. What is interesting to play are the more nuanced emotions that live inside of and underneath anger. So when I work with a young actor, generally that actor, especially if it's, and I'm just going to generalize, but most often, and I'm not saying always, but most often it is a young male performer that uses that as the go-to. So anger represents itself most often in talking at and using loud voice. It's very abrasive. It's just very deflective. So there's no way to get inside of the emotion of anger. So anger lives in kind of an attack. It's a kind of a constant attack on anyone who creates the arena for one person to look at themselves, to engage in acknowledgement of that emotion of being hurt, to recognize that I'm feeling in betrayal, because that would provide a space of weakness that would create an under emotion that you would have to look at and acknowledge. So if vulnerability is weakness, is crying as a weakness, is if acknowledging a flaw, acknowledging something is weakness, then I don't want to feel that because I'm otherwise weak. So we can see that joy, right up here, joy is the highest vibration. So if we're living in joy, consistent joy, if we're finding ourselves, and I'm a believer that you can be in joy and also have a lot of other emotions. You can be in joy and be around sadness. You can be in joy and feel, if you lose someone or if you're in a breakup, I believe that you can have joy in that process simultaneous to the other emotions that you're feeling. All feelings are valid, 100%. Every feeling is valid. It's just a matter of how we explore and how we use that to react in our behavior. And so what you're seeing is there is a group of people right now that know that about a great deal of people, that they can use anger and hate to be the motivating force behind your emotions and therefore create action that is unproductive. Anger is an unproductive emotion. It deflects. It doesn't create nuance. It is kind of retaliates in actions that are immature, that are simple. The behavior from an emotion such as quote unquote anger is quite often, throwing a chair against a window or punching a wall. It's I don't know how to acknowledge the nuanced emotions that I'm feeling. So therefore I'm going to react. I'm angry, therefore I'm going to react. I'm going to punch a wall. I'm going to hurt someone. I'm going to hurt myself. Those are the reactions that hate creates. And there are powers that be that actually know that, and that's what they're using to create this kind of division. So my encouragement to everyone out there is, how can we create a motivation, a experience in which joy, right up here, joy is our motivating and appreciation, empowered, freedom, and love. So and quite honestly, we had a candidate that was leading with that. And Why did that not win over? Because that joy creates, in order to feel joy, we must acknowledge the things that we must acknowledge about ourselves. And that's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to acknowledge a flaw. It requires us to be vulnerable. It requires us to go, okay, this is the emotion I have, and this is why. It is a valid emotion, but it is not necessary. You can take that emotion and you can replace it with something once you've acknowledged it. I feel betrayed. I feel misunderstood. I feel attacked. Okay, so those are all things that I'm feeling. Acknowledge, great. What I'm going to do is shift that. I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose enthusiasm. I'm going to choose happiness in that enthusiasm. I'm going to use passion, my passion for joy, my passion for positive expectations, positive beliefs, optimism, and I'm going to use that as my course of action. I'm going to choose those emotions over the emotions of what are lower on that emotional scale. So if you witnessed the service this weekend, which none of his family was there, with the exception of his wife, you see consistently throughout that the lower vibrations existing here of blame, discouragement, anger, hatred, rage, jealousy, insecurity, guilt, unworthiness, fear, grief, despair, powerlessness. These are very low vibrations, very low vibrations. We must acknowledge when we're in those vibrations and choose, and we have the power to do that individually and collectively, and choose the higher vibrations. And what happens when we choose the higher vibrations? When I choose the higher vibration, I immediately feel empowered. I immediately feel that I can create change in the world in my own personal life. So that is my, so when we use these as artists, when we use these in our daily life, it's very, very effective. So whatever you might be feeling right now, you might be feeling these lower vibrations, and my encouragement for you is to shift and choose these higher vibrations. So you guys can do a Google search on the emotional scale, and the way that I use this emotional scale in my work as an artist is when I'm doing something, and I've played a lot of low vibrational characters. What I choose to do after that day of shooting, or if I'm working with a script, or I'm working with someone on a low vibration where that character is living in a low vibration, I'm going to choose at the end of my work day, I'm going to choose to do things that bring myself into a higher vibration. And that is what we need to do collectively. And if you're out there and you're feeding into this, it's going to, and you're listening, and you don't want to take into acknowledgement, is my actions right now, are they anger? Am I allowing myself to be fed this low vibration? What are we going to source? We're going to source more lower vibration, and that's not cool. So my encouragement to anyone out there who can have the courage to take a few degrees underneath what anger is and go, there's nuance to my emotion. I'm afraid of being taken advantage of. I'm afraid that they're going to come and take my jobs. I'm afraid that they're going to have rights that I want to protect only for myself. Look at yourself and ask yourself the question, can I raise to a higher vibration of joy and abundance? And there's going to be an inclination on how you can live a better life.